What's up, YouTube? If you walk down the halls of an ad agency, you can probably tell where the creative team is sitting. And that's because, well, it's probably a little messy. Art directors are notorious for being, a little bit unorganized. But fear not, because this designer with slight OCD tendencies is going to give you a system to hopefully help you keep your projects in order. Let's do that. Alright, so for 8 years, I've been organizing my files the exact same way. Learned it at my first job and have been using it on freelance projects and at my current agency ever since. It's pretty brick to forehead, but it keeps track of everything so that you can easily go back and reference a job you worked on, or so that somebody you're working with can easily jump into your file and know exactly where everything is. So first is the server structure, or the folder tree. Whether you're on your agency server or you're managing your own freelance projects right from your desktop, the folder structure allows you to keep up with all parts of your project while also keeping track of rounds. The first folder you'll create is the client folder. Who's the project for? And for this example today, we're gonna use one of my freelance clients, DirectLine MD. Within that, you wanna do the name of the job. Are you working on a flyer, a print ad, business cards, whatever it may be, you will make a folder for that. And this one right here is the most important step. So within that folder, you're gonna create an assets folder, a work folder, a presentation folder, a delivery folder, and a legal folder. That legal folder is only for contracts and things like that. I personally use numbers and underscores to always keep them in that order. Your assets folder is where you'll store all the raw art and any graphical pieces that you'll use within your main file. This could be vector iconography you created, edited photography, or even the brand logos. And that way all the little pieces of your file all live within one place. All right, so your work folder is where you'll spend most of your time. This is where you'll put all your working source files for the actual pieces that you're creating, whether it's a Photoshop document or InDesign. If you're making an ad or a flyer, this is where your layout is, utilizing all those different pieces that we found in our assets folder. Now you notice I have a R1, R2, and R3, and that is because it is extremely important to put rounds within this work folder. That way you can keep track of how many rounds a job ends up going, or you can easily go back to reference a previous round. But what constitutes a new round? When do you start a round 2 folder? For me, my rule of thumb is when I get feedback from the client, that starts a new round. This can be extremely important for billing purposes when you have to reiterate how many rounds something went to the client. Next, you'll have your presentation folder. And this is where you'll store any exports of your work, whether that's JPEGs, PDFs, or an actual presentation in Keynote or PowerPoint. And once you've gotten that okay from the client and they're ready for everything to be finalized and packaged up, you'll enter your delivery folder, in which case you will package up your final files for delivery. And typically this is the folder that I zip up and send to the client as that final delivery piece. So yeah, by no means is it rocket science, but I think it's super helpful so you don't get things all mixed up, especially when you get really busy and you have tons and tons of jobs. But now for the main event, the moment you've all been waiting for, naming convention of your files. We went through how to store the files, but now how do we name them? What is the best assortment of characters and numbers so that you can easily track down a file later on? So you're basically gonna name your file in a linear path of important information. First, you're gonna start with the client and project number separated by dashes and a short description of the project. So like what's a little brief descriptor of what you're working on, what round you're on, and then what version or piece number it is, depending if you have multiple elements within one job. And then your initials. You don't have to put your initials if you're doing freelance, but if you're at work, it's a great thing to do so that people know who worked on it last and they can come to you if they have any questions. And this is super helpful when you have a loose file that you're trying to track down to make edits to, because your file name has the client, what project it was, what round it was, and then who worked on it last. It answers a lot of potential questions simply in the file name itself. I'd also try to avoid spaces within your file name. Try to use underscores or dashes instead. Reason being, spaces can cause file corruption or can break a file path if you're ever sending out a link. And yeah, that's the folder structure. That's the naming convention. Use this as a base, tinker with it as you will to better form the system around your personal needs. Please take the extra few seconds to set yourself up for success to avoid wasted hours on the back end trying to find something that you need. Comment below if you have any other suggestions to help people get their organization on. Appreciate you all for making it to the end of a slightly drier video. I'll see you next time. Bye.